Hi everyone, welcome to the Amplify YouTube channel, and in today's video we're going to discuss something I think is very interesting for me because I long knew that these headphones, the Hifiman Arya, the Focal Clear, and the ZMF Auteur were among the best value for money headphones in the market. So I just want to take you through the paces and talk about which I think is the best, well, best for me. Caveat here is that I've owned all three, so I'm not being paid to say anything to the benefit of any headphone or headphone manufacturer. But in any case, I will take you through this review and I'll sort of break it down into aesthetics, build and comfort, technical performance, timbre, which I'm going to treat as a separate category, and of course, something I like to call genre magic to talk about what genre I think works with what headphone. Without further ado, in terms of aesthetics, build and comfort, all these three headphones I think have unique takes on aesthetics. This I think is a very pretty headphone. The Arya is stark matte black. I find it quite unique and beautiful. I love the longish cups. The Focal Clear is, I think, a beautiful headphone, silver, great construction, a more traditional style and structure. And finally, the best looking headphone among all three, the ZMF Auteur. It looks like an heirloom, really. It looks like an antique. You can just sort of, it's worth owning just for how it looks, honestly. Like the leather here is beautiful. The woodwork is just amazing, as is the sort of design on the grill, I think, if you can see it. But in terms of build quality, there are differences, I think. I think this is, to my mind, the best build headphone among all three, followed very closely by the Focal Clear, which is wonderfully built. It's very sturdy. And then the Arya. The Arya is not necessarily built poorly. It's a pretty well built headphone. It's made of plastic, which is fine. It's very comfortable, keeps the weight down, and helps the comfort. But if I had to rank these headphones in terms of build quality, of course, I think I would rank the ZMF Auteur as number one, followed by the Clear, and then the Arya. Overall, they're all three of them are very comfortable, like I said, and perfect for long listening sessions. All three of them are. The ZMF Auteur might strike you as very heavy, but it's really not, because the weight distribution is fantastic. The cups are very comfortable. So overall, I find this also very suitable for long listening. If I compare all three for aesthetics, build and comfort, to summarize, I would rank the ZMF Auteur as number one, followed by the Focal Clear, and then the Hifiman Arya. So that's for aesthetics, build and comfort. Now for technical performance, if I start with the ability to retrieve details, I think the Arya just sort of, beats the Focal Clear just by a little bit. The Focal Clear is very resolving, don't get me wrong. A lot of people say that this is sort of like a younger brother, or a little, 90% of the Focal Utopia. And whether that's true or not is a different question, but I do think that the Arya is slightly more resolving than the Focal Clear. And the Auteur is perhaps the least resolving of all three. But that's not to say that it's not a resolving headphone. It is a highly resolving headphone, but I think less so than the other three. Next category of technical performance is speed and dynamics. In terms of speed, I think the Arya is the fastest. However, the Focal Clear is quite fast as well, very close. And this is relatively less fast than the other two. Dynamics-wise, we have a standout winner here, and that is the Focal Clear. This sort of takes this category by a distance. It is so punchy and so dynamic that I think it's worth listening just for that trait. And dynamic ability might not be your cup of tea, but for anyone who likes listening to rock or even electronica, bass, guitar, drums especially, magic. This is just magic. The slam, the punch is just wow. Followed by the ZMF Auteur. Good slam and punch, good dynamics, but not in the same level as the Focal Clear. Followed by, this is in terms of these three headphones, this is number three in terms of dynamics. Planar dynamics are what they are. I do tend to think that dynamic drivers have this awesome ability at slamming and punching that is just more textured. With exceptions, of course. I think Hifiman Susvara is a planar that punches and slams really well, as does the Abyss 12665 DC and the LCD4. Next, staging and imaging. Sound staging is something that's interesting in a headphone because not everyone craves sound staging as much as others do. So you have people who love the HD800 for its staging abilities, and then you have people who like the HD650 for its lack of. They don't like it for its lack of staging. They like it for other reasons, but then they don't mind the fact that the HD650 does not have great staging. If you care about soundstage, the Arya is your boy. It is just amazing in terms of its sound staging abilities. It's just huge when the track calls for it. It's intimate when the track calls for it. Unlike the HD800, where I think you sort of get a sense of an artificial stage. The number 2 headphone in terms of staging is the Auteur, and the headphone that stages the least well among all 3 is the Focal Clear. Its staging abilities are number 3, I think. It's sort of intimate. It can be great. I've run out of headphones that expanded its stage. It does not have bad staging if you like the rest of what it offers. However, the Arya is by far the standout performer when it comes to sound stage among these 3 headphones. No questions. Imaging, all these 3 headphones perform well. I do think the Focal Clear has the most precise imaging, followed very closely by the Arya. But if I had to rank these headphones in terms of sound stage and imaging, I would say the Arya is by far the standout winner, everything combined, followed by the Focal Clear and the Auteur sort of tied. Better staging on the Auteur, but better imaging on the Focal Clear. Timbre. I like to think of timbre as a separate category because I think it's extremely important to my enjoyment of music. It's very important for me to know that a guitar sounds like a guitar, or a synth sounds like a synth, or different brass and wind and wood instruments sound like what they are in an orchestra, for instance. I grew up with music. I grew up playing music. I grew up around people who played music right here, or I've also, of course, performed live and attended live music events. Timbre-wise, we have a standout winner, and that is the ZMF Auteur. Wonderful timbre on this guy. It's very reminiscent of an AG650, and the Hifiman Susvara is a wonderful headphone when it comes to timbre, level up, or many levels up from this. But in general, I think among these 3, this is the best headphone for timbre, followed by the Hifiman Arya. This has good timbre. There's nothing really wrong with it. Some people see this as a planar timbre, it's plasticky or what have you. I don't necessarily see it. I think this has good timbre, but it doesn't stand out per se. If there's anything that stands out for not being great in terms of timbre, it is the Focal Clear. That is the Focal Clear's weakness. I have initially not liked the Focal Clear for its metallic timbre. A lot of people talk about it. I do know what they're talking about. However, if you give it some time, with some burn-in, with the right amping, this can be less offensive. And let's say for electronic music, the timbre or lack of it doesn't really matter to me as much. But if you are a timbre head, then this is your guy. There's the ZMF Auteur. Lastly, tonality, which is very important. In terms of tonality, they're all very neutral headphones. Very different takes on neutral. This is bright of neutral. This is bright of neutral. This is warm. Now, although both the Arya and the Focal Clear are bright, I do think that this is smoother in the treble, especially the second revision, which is what I'm reviewing. The Focal Clear can have some unevenness in its treble region, peaks that might bother you if you are sensitive to that sort of thing. I have over time learned to not be sensitive, or just grown insensitive, so to speak, to treble spikes within certain limits. So I don't necessarily find it bothersome. But of course, if you are treble sensitive and you want a warm headphone, then tonality wise, this is your guy. The safest headphone in terms of timbre, wonderful. If you can handle some bright, but you want a smooth treble nonetheless, especially if you care for a good quality treble, the treble spark, the sort of splash and the shimmer, without overdoing it, of course. The Arya is for treble heads. It's wonderful. I'm not going to say the Focal Clear is for treble heads, although its treble energy does help with most things. I like treble energy in certain limits. But if you are a treble head, I would pick the Arya over the Focal Clear. If you are a bass head, I would pick the Focal Clear. If you are a mid head, if there is such a thing, I hope there is, it's so important to music, I would pick the ZMF Auteur. Now, in terms of musicality, I think this is by far the most musical headphone, followed very closely by the Auteur. By musicality, I sort of refer to liquidity and sort of flow in the music when you listen to a particular headphone. Not all headphones are musical, for example. I didn't think the Abyss 12665 DC was the most musical headphone, which is fine. So that's just my take. Now, overall, how would I sum it up? If I had to have one headphone and just one headphone among all these 3 and no other headphones, I think I would pick the Hifiman Arya. This by far, I think, is the best all-rounder headphone among all 3. However, I have sold the Arya, and you might ask why. If I'm suggesting that this is the best headphone of all 3, and that's because I upgraded to the Hifiman Susvara. Because at the Susvara, I don't think I need the Arya. They're not exactly the same sound, of course. The Susvara is far more technical, and Susvara has a slightly different tonality. It's not as bright as the Arya, so to speak. But I have the Susvara, so I sold the Arya. I've retained the Focal Clear for its unique punch and slam. I needed that in my arsenal. And I am holding on to the Auteur for now because of his vocals, and it's just wonderful with vocals. And it's a good sort of headphone with which you can review other headphones. It's a good benchmark headphone, I think. So that's it. That's how I think of all these three headphones. Genre matching wise, if you like audiophile music, jazz, classical, music with acoustics, acoustic guitar, for instance, or music in large halls and arenas like orchestral music, this is a wonderful headphone. It also works well with rock, I think, but if you really like the slam and the punch, and if you want to listen to electronic music, then I think this is your guy. And lastly, if you're into vocals, a lot of vocals, and jazz vocals, female vocals, the Auteur is wonderful. If you're undecided, you want to play it safe, the Auteur is also a good bet. Anyways, that concludes my review. If you like this, please leave a comment and like us and subscribe to this channel and stay tuned for future videos. And of course, you can reach me. I'll drop my contact info in the description below. I hope this helps, guys, and stay safe during COVID, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.